Hello everyone, it's Getawid here from the Streamer Consciousness podcast. Once again, stopping in at the beginning of this episode to give you a little intro. Firstly, I want to say that this is a fantastic episode. Talking to this particular guest was so insightful, not only about streaming, but about the world of sporting entertainment, and I can't wait for you to meet her. The reason I'm doing an intro this week is because once again the podcast is split into 2 episodes because we talked for 3 hours, which was amazing. Had a great time talking. But the reason it's being split into 2 parts is because to upload the episodes to Spotify and all the various other podcast places, I have to pay a rate every month, and that's coming out of my own pocket. And so I'm doing what I can with that. But I have now set up a Patreon for Streamer Consciousness. So if you want to go over to patreon.com/Streamer Consciousness, you can go check it out. And I will be uploading a little bonus footage, behind the scenes, extra stuff to try and give back in a way beyond the videos themselves to try and give you some extra content, but also to try and raise a bit of money so that we can continue to pump out the podcasts and hopefully in the future be able to pay for more space so that I can upload these longer episodes in one go. So I very much appreciate all your support so far on the podcast, and yeah, if you do want to help out, there is no obligation, but feel free to go check it out over at patreon.com/Streamer Consciousness as well. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Streamer Consciousness, a podcast designed to talk about a person's thoughts and conscious reactions to events perceived as a continuous flow. My name is Getawid, or Gideon, and I am joined today by a wonderful person, a guest with over 400,000 followers on Twitter, and that is amassed by not only her success as an individual, but she is also a professional wrestler and has appeared on WWE and TNA and all the other various places that we will get into talking about now. Weighing in at whatever she weighs. We were not going to ask a woman about that. And at a height of a wrestler's 5 foot, not 4 foot, 11 and a half, it's Zelina Vega. No, but it's also Thea Trinidad. Thea, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I did it justice there with your walkout.
No, yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. It's a nice little effect.
Absolutely.
Pretty good.
Thank you. So this is crazy for me, being able to talk to a professional wrestler on episode 6 now of the podcast, which you can check out.
Hey.
Live on Spotify, YouTube, all of the various other places that we are available as well over at Streamer Consciousness. So if you are watching on one platform, make sure you check it out on every other platform as well. Thea, where can people find you first and foremost? And do you want to give us a little intro about who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Thea Trinidad. You might know me as WWE's Zelina Vega or TNA's Rosita or AJ Lee and Fighting with My Family, depending on where you've seen me from, or even just from my Twitch channel or my YouTube channel. So it's Thea Trinidad is my Twitch. Thea Trinidad is also my Instagram and my Twitter. My YouTube though is Thea Trinidad because Thea Trinidad was taken for some reason.
So oh my goodness, where do we start? I guess with you as a person, as a character, as all this kind of stuff. Obviously, I did my best impression of your walkout, your ring intro, from more recent history. I guess the first question I was going to ask is, what's it like walking out into the ring for the first time And did that feeling change at all over time?
For WWE or just like my first ever?
Let's talk about both. So if
Well,
you want to start about your first time walking out to the ring, and then go forward from there.
so first time ever, I was nervous as all hell. I think I was like 19 or 20 when I was in TNA. So it was really surreal for me because I was like, wow, this is like I was just kind of thrown into the mix right away. It wasn't even like, oh, here's your like getting used to this period and then whatever. No. It was just like we're throwing you out there and here's your new tag partner, here's your new name, and that was it. And I was like, okay, sure. So we also had to come up with an entrance, me and my cousin. So it was interesting to get to know her like all in the same day too. It was like, where do we fit together? We're supposed to be related, but we're trying to figure this out.
That was literally, so that was the first day you'd met as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was the first time we met. And I remember my actual cousin, Amazing Red, he was in TNA at the time. And he was like, you're absolutely going to love her. It's going to be great. She's amazing. She's super talented, really chill. So I had like a good idea of what what her vibe was initially. So I wasn't worried. I was just nervous because I was like, oh God, I hope I can like live up to, because she's like a freaking legend. So I was like, and I've been lucky. Like anybody who they paired me with, whether it was in TNA or WWE, has always been people who have really good, God, they're just legends, like Sarah Stock. And, obviously you hear about her in Japan or in Mexico and you're like, oh my God, and then same with Andrade in WWE. It was like, okay, he's also like been doing this since he was 13 and he's a freaking legend as Sombra in Mexico. So it's like, oh my God, so as far as walking out though, the walking out part was fine. It was super awkward and I can tell when I'm awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst part for that debut was that I was wearing white pants that day. And I didn't know that my partner, good old friend, was wearing tanner on her stomach. So we had done this we had done this move where I had to like wrap my legs around her waist and she was going to pick me up and I was going to land on the person. But by the time that happened, it basically looked like I pooped myself. So yeah, I had tanner all on the back of my like white shorts and yeah, and it was bad because the angles were so bad too, because I had to hit the moonsault like from the top rope and backflip onto Velvet Sky, who's like one of my best friends. And I did it, but the angle that the camera got was just like my whole backside, and it literally looked like it was just poop all over my freaking shorts. So it was so bad. But then like I didn't know this at the time. Mm-hmm. No one said anything in the ring. So we're like, yay, super happy. I'm like, oh, I actually hit her. Like, this is great. As soon as I got to the back, I remember Tommy Dreamer going, yeah, that was good. Did you like get so nervous that you pooped yourself or something? I don't know. And I was like, no, why? And he's like, dude, you have stuff all in the back of your shorts. Never ever wear white pants again. Yeah, so that was awful. That was awful. You. Yeah, so that sucked. But I wore black ever since then and red. So yeah. But then in WWE, I felt like by that time, because I had probably like 8 tryouts, and every year it was like, no, this isn't the right time yet or whatever. So by that time I was so hungry and I felt like I had so much to prove. I was like, I don't know if we can curse on here, but I was just like, I am here. I'm here. Like, let's freaking go. Like, so it was nerve-wracking, but I think it was just like, I need to, and I remember too, because I had for NXT, usually and before anything big happened, I would kind of talk to Dwayne, because he like before I met Dwayne back in like 2015. And we had just became friends like ever since then. And anything that was big that was going on in my life, whether it was, fighting with my family or the debut, he always would give me a good pep talk beforehand. And I remember right before going out there, he said something like, show them what you and I have known all along. Show them why they made a mistake and didn't sign you sooner. And that was the first thing I heard before I went out there. And it was great, And then basically it was a trial run because they wanted to see if me and Andrade were going to work good together. And when I got to the back, Triple H was like, yeah, this is going to work. And I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
What's it like being thrown into I guess we can get to this, but I guess since you just brought up Triple H, I guess obviously being a big wrestling fan growing up, you obviously looked up to a lot of these people. What was it like having that first moment of sort of walking in and seeing all these stars that you've enjoyed watching for so many years?
Well,
obviously, I'd just like to point out as well for any audio listeners, that's Thea's husband in the back playing some video games and all that jazz. So
I was just gonna say, they can hear you. No, but it's, I don't know, like, I was never the kind of person to really, or what we call mark out, like to fangirl about anybody necessarily, unless they really, really were one of the people that influenced this, like whoever this became at that moment. So for me, that was Rey Mysterio, Lita, the Hardys, The Rock, and Triple H. So it was, and Stephanie McMahon too. She was obviously, as far as like my manager side, like Stephanie, Paul Heyman, Sherry Martel, and Melina were like the ones that created Zelina. But it was nerve-wracking to even, because I see what the cool thing is, and he'll probably know now, but after I say it, but Triple H, I met him back in, it was the Izod Center. They don't have the Izod Center anymore in New Jersey, but that was my first ever tryout with WWE. And we have like an etiquette there. You go there and you shake everyone's hand, and it's a real respect thing. You make sure that whether they are Vince McMahon or the referees, the wrestlers, the lighting people, like janitors, whoever it is, you shake everyone's hand, you're respectful.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're so nervous is that you end up shaking people's hands like 2 or 3 times because you're like, wait, I gotta make sure I definitely got that person. But oh my God, Hunter called me out on it. It was funny because we were in the cafeteria and I shook his hand and I left, and he was the only one at the table at when that happened. And I left and I came back and I saw that Pat Patterson was there. And I was like, well, I have to shake his hand too, but then I can't not shake his hand because then I just shook his hand. And what if he forgot that I shook his hand? And then it's going to be a whole big thing. And I just can't, like, I was freaking out. Yeah. It's so silly now, like looking back at it. But I went to shake Pat Patterson's hand and I was like, I looked over at Triple H and I was like, I know I shook your hand already, but I'm just going to do it again because this is kind of awkward. So, and he was like, yeah, no, but it's actually not as awkward now that you say that. And I was like, okay, cool. But meeting him was such a, like, as you can tell, that moment, I was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. It was such a crazy like moment. And same thing with like, with Ray. I remember Ray was a big one. Lita was another one. And the Hardys I met when I was 15 because I went to a signing that they had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was in the mall somewhere in Long Island. And I went on the line twice because I was psycho. And I was like, no, I have to.
Some say psycho, others say opportunist. So.
Well, funny that you say that because it ends up being a very interesting story. So I met them there. I got the signatures, but it was like another like $30 or something to get a picture. And I was like, oh, I don't have the money for that, right? So I went on there, got the signatures, left, and I was like, no, I'm gonna ask my aunt for money. Like, I didn't care. I was just like, let's just do this. And she's like, oh, you know what? When else are you gonna get the chance to like meet the Hardy Boys, right? Sure, let's do it. So she gave me the money for it. I went back on the line and I see Matt and he goes, oh, you're back. I was like, yes, this crazy girl with the braces and curly hair. I'm back. So then I took pictures with them. And by that time I had such a huge crush on Jeff Hardy. Like it was like unhealthy, obsessed. And at one point, like we took the group picture, and right before we left, I told my uncle, I was like, "Yo, get this picture real quick." And it's like me and Jeff real quick. I'm like, "Oh," but and Matt was kind of like, "Why am I not in this?" Or, all right, cool, fine, right? Never thought I'd see them again after that. Fast forward 3 years, I'm 18 now, and I'm in college, and I'm doing like I'm trying to learn how to do like graphic design and editing and business and whatever, right? So my friend at the time was like, hey, I really need you to help me with this project I'm working on. I was like, okay, this is good, like editing practice for me. Like, what is it? He's like, oh, it's called The Hardy Show. It's like these 2 wrestlers. And I was like, what? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, it's like these two. I was like, no, 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 I know who they are. What I don't know is why you haven't told me
Mm.
that you've known them. Um, just like information you kind of want to let your friend know, And he's like, but I don't really like to do that, because like, I don't know. I don't even know if you knew them. I was like, yeah, I mean, I heard of them, but, and so I started working for them. And one day, oh God, this is so embarrassing. But one day, God, have I even told? I don't even think I've said this on anywhere before. Like my friends know about this, but
The exclusive scoop.
very embarrassing scoop. But Matt, because we had like a joint like Hardy Show account. Like if we needed to send things through mail, like whatever, we had our accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my own private AOL account. So Matt's like, I need to get this thing that ended up going to your email. Just give me your password and I'll grab it from there. And I won't look at anything else. I'll just like send it to myself and whatever. And I was like, maybe we don't do that. Why don't we just like, I could send it to you when I get home from school. He's like, no, it's time sensitive. Like I need it now. And I was like, okay. Password. So password, J.
See where this is going.
Like, yeah. And he's like, okay. I said E, F. And he's like, dude, if you say F one more time, I'm going to hang up. I said, hang up then, bro, because it was so bad. And then, like, I don't know, maybe like an hour later, I get a call from Jeff and he goes, hey, some your password, huh? I was like, no, he didn't let me finish. It was Jeff Howard or something.
Jeff Howard.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, right. I was like, hello, it's not you. So I don't even know if he even remembers that, but that was took a little bit to live down. But yeah, and then I ended up working with them in TNA when I was like 19, 20, and then again in WWE, which is really crazy. We all kind of like follow each other. It's funny how like my aunt goes from, oh, when are you ever gonna see the Hardys to then now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank goodness your aunt had the extra money to let you go back in line.
Yeah, to just seem like
otherwise,
a complete
maybe it would
psycho.
be a different career path. At that
Quite
point,
possibly, actually, yeah.
You'd have been in graphic design, not necessarily knowing the Hardy Boys in the way that you do. So
yeah, it's really strange actually when you think about it, because like it's one thing, right? You always think about that. It's always one thing that could change everything. Crazy.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about you being sort of 15 and already being into wrestling at that point.
Yeah.
And you said about your aunt there being supportive of that. I'd love to ask,
yes,
how important has it been having a supportive family in motivating you to achieve your dreams?
It was incredibly important for me because like for my dad, like he wanted to be a WWE wrestler. Like he wanted to do, I mean, but having 3 jobs at the time, having a wife and kids, like there was just no way. He did wrestling in high school though. And he was super supportive. Even if I was like 4 years old, I knew at 4 years old, I was like, I want to do that. I definitely want to do that. And my mom was like, yeah, sure. Okay. Phase, like she'll get over it. But my dad's like, no, this is really cool. My dad, my uncle Joey, my grandfather, like I used to watch wrestling with them all the time. So they were like super supportive. My aunt used to like get my uncles and my other aunts to like go and make Just Bring It signs, like really, really big Just Bring It signs for Madison Square Garden. It would just be like a J on one single huge poster. So you can imagine like all crazy Puerto Ricans around like the like one side of Madison Square Garden with like the rocks saying on there. But my mom was hesitant because she was like, oh, you're going to get hurt. And, you're so tiny and I don't want you to like, be paralyzed or whatever. But she got over that. She got over that. And, but I think it took a little bit for her because, she was like, no, you have to like go to college and you have to like do these things because that's what they tell you you're supposed to do. Right. So like you have to follow these rules of life, but then when she saw like I was getting tryouts and then I got signed in TNA at so young, she was like, oh, maybe this is your path, like maybe this is just something you got to do. And, she's been super supportive since though.
That's
so
really
it's been
wonderful. Nice. Speaking of your mother, Monique, she said at one point that Zelina Vega was a mix of a lot of your family's traits rolled into one person.
Yeah.
What traits are which family members, and how much of her traits were yours?
Oh, surprisingly, a lot of it was my grandmother. That's probably like my grandmother and my younger brother Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Those two are like the bulk of it. Because the sassy, I'm very small, but I will kick your ass kind of thing is her. The New York kind of swagger talk to her is my brother. But my mom, she's the like witty, snippy little comebacks. Like she's so like, especially being younger and smaller, you have to have to your advantage. Everybody has like strength and speed or whatever, and I had my mouth. So if you didn't want to smack me before, after I opened it, you wanted to smack me then.
Where are you from again?
So Queens,
yeah,
New York.
I just wanted to make you say it. From Queens, then you're good at talking.
yeah, you have to be to like survive out there. You have to be. My mom was the one that always comebacks. Even when she said it to me, like just if her and I were in a little like tiff or something when I was younger and I couldn't say nothing, like I should be like, oh, but I'll remember that. So she's a lot of the comebacks for sure.
You brought up your dad, Michael, as well. Mm-hmm. And, I don't want to go too deep into this because I know you've told this story what must seem like a million times, that you tragically lost him at 10 years old. How did you cope with that loss at such a young age?
So a lot of it started with like denial and depression and like anxiety, and you didn't really know how to go about that. A lot of people that I met during that time that did lose someone on 9/11, they went into either like crazy depression or they just spent all the money that came in for them or whatever. But for me, I was like, well, what was it that my dad and I really shared? And it was wrestling, So I was like, you know what? This was his dream. I'm going to do it for him, but I'm also going to do it for me. And that's, I think, what kind of kept me focused rather than kind of all over the place. Because at first I was all over the place at one point. You start with things that you feel like you don't deserve, right? So I felt like I didn't deserve food. So I went through like a food issue at one point in my life. And then once you realize like, no, like you have a path to be on right now. Like there's a reason why all these things happen. Then you kind of just like pull yourself out of it and just stay clear on this path, because you feel like if you don't, you're letting his memory die. And that's, I think, what kept me kind of going and fighting so much, is because I didn't want that to go. Because like, you hear all the time, 9/11's in the history books now, and like, oh yeah, that one thing that happened back in 2001, or like, oh, people making artwork about it, or they'll make like as if it happened so long ago. And it's like, no, that still feels like it was just like 10 years ago for me, maybe. Meanwhile, it's close to what 20 now?
Yeah.
20?
Yeah. Almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. So it's really just trying to make sure that you keep those memories alive with you somehow.
So it's still a crazy experience for me, because obviously living in England, I didn't know the impact of what was happening. And I remember I was at school because of the time difference. Anyway, I was at school when the first tower was hit. And by the time I got home, the second tower had been hit. And I remember walking in from school. I'm around the same age as you, so I must have been about 10. But I remember walking in, and my mum was standing up watching the television. She was maybe 3 feet from it, just staring at the TV. And I think at that point, that's what really impacted me, was seeing how impacted she was watching a national disaster impact another country in the way that it was. And I hadn't experienced a moment like that before. There had been moments where things had happened, like the Queen Mother died, and my experience of that, for example, my knowledge was I was watching a comedy show, and then it got interrupted and it came on and said, "Hey, this is national news, and this is what's happened." And I remember being annoyed the show got turned off. Like that's the kind of scenario, the logic of not understanding the situation. But with that specifically, seeing somebody like my mother have so much empathy for what was going on in a completely different country was a real like eye-opening moment for me. So
yeah, I always like hearing people's stories of that day, because it's always so interesting to know like where you were versus like where everybody else was, and what they thought and what they were doing, and then to hear it from somebody from a different country, it's like it's really crazy how something like that, especially if you're around our age and had to like live through it. Like my little brother, he was like 1 at the time. Not the middle one, Timmy, but Kevin. He was 1, so he lived through it, but he didn't remember anything about it. And he's like, you read it about like in like history class now, as if it's like some ancient thing, and it's like, oh, I can't believe that's, you know what I mean? Like you like Pearl Harbor, for instance, you're like, oh wow, that was like forever ago. But at that time, those people didn't think so. And it's like, it's just crazy how things over time just, it feels like, people are moving on. And I think defiantly, I was like, no, you're not going to move on from this. Like his name isn't just going to be a name in the freaking history book. Like it's going to be something that's like remembered. And an interesting way that happened was because when I met Dwayne, and mind you, Dwayne was like my dad's favorite. Like favorite everything. He did the eyebrow, he did his hair like him, dressed like him, the whole nine. And when I had met Dwayne initially, which I got in trouble for, because like they didn't want anybody like talking to him, because he's like, oh my god, it's The Rock and whatever. But
that's what a lot of people get paid for, just to point out like that. Rather than them being like, no, you cannot talk to Dwayne Johnson, there are those people out there that are like, this is my job to stop you from talking to this person. So yeah. And what's funny is like, and he's not like that. Like he would rather everybody talk to him. Like I've never seen him like not stop for somebody, or like go out of his way if he sees like people by a barrier, like a barricade or something, he'll go over to them. Like he's one of the people that I've always really admired for that, because whether you were, again, the president or just some random person walking up to him, like he'll show you the same respect, which I always thought was a really cool thing. But when I had passed him, this was like a weird accidental thing, but I was standing. So I was an extra for WWE at the time. Like they had people coming in for like extra spots. You could be a background person or whatever. And I was standing where you like go out to the ring, because I was talking to someone else, because I had a match the next day, which is like a tryout match. So I was like, okay, I got to prepare, like, whatever. So we're talking about like the gorilla area?
Yeah.
Or okay. Yeah. So the area backstage just before you walk out behind the curtains.
Yeah, so it's like there's a stairs, and then there's gorilla. I was by the stairs.
Okay.
So he was out kind of doing his thing, and we're all kind of like watching on the monitors, like, wow, that's there's no one else that can do it like him, right? So I hear his music kind of go off, like he's done. And I was like, okay, cool. So I turn my attention this way, and I'm talking to Kofi Kingston, who amazing person, has always had my back. And he's like, okay, so tomorrow you should do this move, you should try this, like we're going over all these things, right? And all of a sudden I feel something like passing me, so naturally I just look up, and I was like, oh. And he's like looking down at me, and he's like, hi. I was like, hi. And again, there's the handshake thing, like, hi, I'm Thea, nice to meet you. And he's like, hi, I'm Dwayne, or whatever. I was like, yeah, no shit. I mean, and he just kind of laughs, and he's like, what's your name? I said, Thea Trinidad. And he's like, is that your real name? I said, yeah. He's like, oh, that's cool. My name's just Dwayne Johnson. I mean, I was like, I think he's kidding. I just can't tell yet. I can't tell his like humor yet. So he kind of just giggles, and he walks away. And then I kind of like look at him, and Kofi's like, did that just happen? Did that really just happen? It was a really weird. Okay. He's like, I'm just going to go this way. So Kofi leaves. I turn back, and I'm looking at Dwayne, and he looks back at me, and he's like, I was like, oh no, what did I do? And he's like, you look like you have something important to tell me. And I was like, okay, fine. And I told him everything. I told him, I was like, about my dad, about 9/11, about losing him, why I wanted to become a wrestler, and that he was his favorite. And I ended it by saying, I don't even care if I never see you again. I just want to thank you because we have all these amazing memories with my dad because of you. And right away, he just got like really teary eyed. He's like, oh my God, that's not what I thought you were going to say. He's like, I thought you were going to like compliment my hair or something. He's bald. So. So he just like gave me this big hug and he was like, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Like that was really amazing. And, you know, but we got like pulled away at that point. But still, I was on cloud nine. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm so glad I got to tell him that. And fast forward, I think it was last year. No, 2 years ago. So this was like 2018. No. Sorry, 2017, I think, is when we started the movie. So we became friends at that point. You know, we did the movie, blah, blah, blah. But then
we'll get on to that.
Yeah. So then 2018, though, and I had become friends with his daughter, Simone. She's a beautiful person. But she calls me, she FaceTimes me, and she's like, hey, guess where I'm at right now? And I was like, where? She's like, me and my dad are going to go see your dad at the 9/11 like memorial thing in the city. And I was like, whoa. Like, that is insane, because I remember at that point I was like, wow, I was like, Dad, look, like your favorite wrestler knows your name. Like, it's so cool, you know, and he's there to see you, you know? So that was such a cool moment because I have this picture of like Dwayne and Simone, like father and daughter at my dad's, like part in the 9/11 memorial. I don't know what it's called. The fountains that they're there. And I have that picture and I'll always cherish that because it's just such a cool thing that through whether it was a dedication or just trying to, you know, keep his memory alive so much, it brought that moment to me, which brought that to him. So I thought that was really cool. It's like, that's something that you'll always carry with you no matter what.
Absolutely. That's especially with it being that moment of him turning back around and saying, there's something else you want to tell me.
Yeah.
And it's funny how there are moments in life where I feel as though, you know, I wasn't like a true believer in fate. I feel like you do have choice in life, but the more I've gone through life, the more strange coincidences have happened whereby those opportunities have presented themselves, and I think the choice involved a lot of the time is making sure you take them, because you very easily could have not mentioned that at that particular moment, and again, maybe things would be different.
That's so crazy to even think about, really, because we always call that day like our magic moment, like our like that was like our magical moment. And it's just funny because there was one other point where I could have said something to him, like this was maybe 2013 or something, and he was like the guest again for Monday Night Raw or whatever it was. And I saw him and I was about to say hi, and he had walked into the room because somebody had like gotten in front of me and brought him into a room to finish whatever he was doing. And I was like, oh man, I'll never meet The Rock. That sucks. Now fast forward again, like, and that just wasn't probably the right time, you know, because he was like super busy. But at that point, it was like the perfect moment, perfect time, and just it felt like there was just me and him in that room. Like, and even though there was tons of people, it really just felt like it was just us, you know. So it was pretty crazy to even think about. Even now, as like recalling it, crazy.
Yeah, there have definitely been moments where opportunities, I guess, have presented themselves to me where I didn't, where I had chances to ask people questions in the past, and I haven't taken the chance to talk about it because it didn't feel like the right moment to do so. And I feel like it's really important what you've just said is recognizing, one, reading the room is something that I always bring up when it comes to streaming. It's very important to be able to recognize when is the right moment to discuss something or talk about certain situations. And one that happened to me recently, I guess, with the last guest that we previously had on, which was Dahi Denogla, huge YouTuber and really great guy. But yeah, it's somebody. The reason I bring this up is because in the comments on one of the videos, somebody said, "I'm so jealous as to how a channel with only sort of 300 subs has managed to talk to Nogla." And it's funny because before we started recording, I had that same moment where I was talking to him and just said, like, how have I managed this? And I said the same thing to you today, but his response to that was, "You asked."
Yeah.
And that in itself was just so simplistic but so poignant to me that I took the opportunity when the time was right to ask him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still blowing my mind that I'm getting to talk to such influential people, and
That's so cool.
and all that.
Who have such
yeah.
respect for you as well, you know? Like I think that's also part of it, because if we didn't feel that way towards you, then I'm sure there could have been some excuses to why they couldn't, or why, you know, someone else couldn't. So I think that that's important too, is just you knowing that, and like the vibe that you give off. And like, I feel, what is that saying, is like the your vibe attracts your tribe. I feel like that's such a thing, because it's like the person that you are will dictate how other people are going to be with you. So like obviously we all feel some type of way about you to want to do the same thing, you know?
Well, when I'm talking to Dwayne Johnson on this podcast in a few weeks, then we'll see how it goes. His busy schedule, but he manages to come on and talk to me.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's I have so many questions here. There's so many avenues of which way we can go from this. But I guess
we can go anywhere you want to go.
Okay.
Moments and cool, but whatever you want, bring them on.
Okay. So, well, let's get to the meat and potatoes, considering this is Streamer Consciousness, the podcast. Yeah. Why do you stream?
So again, this kind of brings back my family, but whether it was my mom, who loved Mortal Kombat and just kind of got my brother and I into gaming, or my dad, who loved, like, you know, comics and action figures, and just, I think that's what made me such a nerd, was that my mom and my dad really loved it. And what's funny is, like, I remember my mom putting me to, like, she went and put my brother and I to sleep, but then I heard, like, oof, noises coming from, like, the living room area. I was like, what is that? Do I want to know? Like, do I want to risk this right now? Like, and when I went in there, she was playing Mortal Kombat. And I was like, oh my God, what's this? There's so much blood. And she's like, I know, right? It's cool. And I was like, what? And then she's like, okay, all right, you can sit here for a bit, but don't tell your dad. Just hurry up. Come on. So like, that's what started kind of like my gaming, like, I guess my love for video games. And then I started playing Sonic with my aunt. And I think it's just because I'm so close to my family, whatever it was that we were doing together, like any opportunity to do something together was just fun for me, and something I look forward to. So, and then my brother and I were so close that anything that he wanted to do, I wanted to do. So even though I was like the older one, I was like the leader, not a necessarily very good one, but it was just cool because it was something that we loved. And it was, like when you're in school, like I was the girl that was like really small, and she liked wrestling, and, you know, she played video games, and she didn't really have a whole lot of friends. She didn't go to prom or nothing like that. But it's like, I don't know. I embraced that when I was younger. Like I didn't even care. Like it was just, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm sure like there's people out there who are going to like this stuff, you know? And now everybody and their mother is, whether they're a gamer or pretending to be just for clout, like it's a thing, right? So, but yeah, that's what got me into gaming initially. And then I realized, like, especially during quarantine, I was like, I'm playing a lot of games, but I miss the interaction with fans. Like I miss like going to live events and like having that interaction and meet and greets and whatever. So I was like, the best of the two worlds for me was Twitch, because you get to play video games, you get to talk to like-minded people, and then you get to just interact with them too. So it was like a nice combination of everything.
Do you remember which character your aunt was playing as when you sat down?
Mortal Kombat?
Yeah.
So my mom liked Sonya. I loved Sindel. My brother was a big Liu Kang guy because he kept spamming the freaking bicycle kicks. So But yeah, and Sindel for me, I think it was more like Trilogy is when she was more involved, and I loved that. That one was like my favorite for a while. So definitely Sindel. But before that, I mean, it's like, yeah, Sonya and Kitana, like, oh, okay. But when Sindel came on the scene, I was like, that's my girl. Like her and Jade were like the one. Jade, especially because I could cosplay her, because I was like, okay, it's simple. Black hair, I can do it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You know,
you can put on the green and make it work. It's funny because I never caught my parents playing video games, but they used to do the same thing. They would put us to bed and then they go play Mario or other things like that. Duck Hunt was a particular favorite as well. They used to play Duck Hunt a lot.
That's so
together.
Cool.
So my parents were gamers at heart too, but I never knew that until later on in life.
Really?
So, yeah. It just wasn't something that came up, but we always had consoles in our house and stuff. I think it was an easy way because my mum had 4 kids in 5 years, so we're all very close in terms of age. So it was an easy way to get us to learn to play together when we couldn't play outside. So there was that. In terms of my experience with Mortal Kombat, I only remember being at caravan parks because again we didn't have a lot of money to go to places, so you know we go camping or whatever, and there'd be the occasional arcade machine and stuff. So there'd be Mortal Kombat, and so my experience of Mortal Kombat from back then was either watching the demo characters at that point fight and then occasionally getting a pound or whatever to be able to put into the machine, and I'd always be Sub-Zero. My brother would always be Scorpion. And again, I don't think it was like a planned thing. It was just here we are. These are the characters we picked. I just really like Blue. So yeah, but no, that's really interesting to see that your mother and was into the fighting games as well and all that stuff.
Which is why I think like fighting games are probably my favorite. Like Tekken, I love too. My brother and I used to really get into Tekken. Street Fighter. I mean, I got my last name like Vega from Vega, so and that's where I guess the Royal Rumble outfit kind of came from. But because I brought cosplay into wrestling too, you know, because I was able to kind of get away with it for Royal Rumble. So I think it's crazy how fighting games or just video games in general is so influential on people in other avenues, you know. So which I think is cool that it translates so well, and especially like if you know. Like I knew the second I wore that for the Royal Rumble, there was going to be people that go, "Oh my God, her last name is Vegas. She Vegas from," you know, like so that's why I did it, because there's like little things like that. I was like, oh, it's like a nice little Easter egg for everybody. So
absolutely. In terms of okay, we're going slightly off piste here, but Sonic. Let's talk about this. So you played Sonic with your aunt. What is your favorite Sonic music? Do you remember any music that?
Oh yeah,
from the game?
I still play it.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
This is great. This is the kind of interview that people really wanted. With Thea Trinidad's favorite Sonic music.
Yeah, I like the Labyrinth one.
Nice.
That one and Marble Zone.
I think for me it was always the Chemical Plant Zone, the one that goes that one's a banger.
Yeah, I feel like Sonic music was always really good, especially like that first one is just iconic. And I used it for so many things too. Like I would use it for like my starting screen for like Twitch or whatever, or I'd use it for if my cats are doing something stupid and I need to like have like a video of it, but then put music underneath it. I would put Sonic music underneath it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the Sonic is awesome.
So, yeah, music in general, intro music. Did you get a say at all when it came to what kind of intro music you had for walking out?
No.
Just always something that was decided for you and.
Yeah, but it was based off of who I was with at the time.
Of course.
So with Sarita, she had music already, so we just went out to her music, and then when they gave me mine, I was like, ooh, like why did you? I don't know. Like if anybody hears that music, I don't know how they can relate that to my character at the time because it is cool music, but I was just like, how can I move to this? Because like for me, I had to be able to feel it. Like I had to be able to move to it. And I just remember like I was like, I'll just keep coming out with her. Like it's fine. We're good. Because that one I was just like, I can't, like it was slow. And almost like opera sounding. I was like, I don't think I can really do that. But with WWE, it was a little bit more because with Andrade's music, it was really good. I loved his music. And it was just for me, I was like, that's like iconic. Like NXT music was like always the best. Like I loved it. And even though it was like people be like, oh, it's stereotypical because you hear like the Spanish like guitar and like whatever. Like I didn't I loved it though. It was just we felt whenever him and I came out together, we felt like powerful, and that was the music that helped us feel like we're here, you know. Although Alistair's music I felt was like the best. And it was hard because anytime I had to like we had to be against him, there was times where I was like where did I leave, or what did you hear before the robot-y part?
Yeah, sorry for any audio listeners there. We've probably just cut out a little bit of that section there because Thea turned into a robot. But
I did.
It was a nice experience, but we gotta go back a little.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain is now making a T-1000 joke. Since you were the Terminator there for a minute. Let's go back to talking about typecasting, the stereotype of the music that was playing with Andrade. And you said you really liked the music.
Yeah, I mean, like in a stereotypical way, I meant like, I guess when people would see us, they would think, oh, they're going to come out to Spanish music or something like that. But with us, we just found it very empowering. Like we found it very like, you felt like you were powerful. When we came out, like, you know, like, okay, we've arrived. Like this is the music that was like, boom, you know, and it felt really good because at some points, like we had, I believe it was NXT TakeOver. God, I don't remember which match it was, but they had like a mariachi band playing like the intro part of his music. And then like the actual music came in and most people were like, oh, really? Like a mariachi band? Seriously? But then like when you saw it, you're like, okay, that worked. Like they all had lucha masks on. They had like the Sombra one, the one that he had. So it was just a really cool looking thing. And I feel like a lot of people were like, oh, that was way cooler than I thought it was going to be or whatever. And when it came to my singles music, they had kind of like a skeleton of what they were looking for. And they're like, okay, well, do you like this? And if not, like, do you want more drums here? Do you want less drums? Do you want a guitar here? Do you like, you know, so I had some input, but it wasn't like from scratch.
Got you.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you got the music that you had most recently, where it is a straight up bop? If people haven't heard it, it's cool. It's catchy. You know,
Thanks.
People even looking on the comments section of the song itself, people are like, you know, why this music is so catchy. Why would you then release the person that you've got the catchy music for all of a sudden?
So my initial thoughts on it, because it didn't sound like that initially. It sounded close, but it was I had to add a little bit of my flavor into it too, because it was like I told him I want to have a bit of like Aaliyah feel, like 90s kind of feel to it, but then also keeping that like Spanish beat. So it's like I wanted to keep that, but then I also wanted to add a little bit of a 90s vibe to it. So it didn't sound like that initially, but I really liked the final product. And then I was thinking too, I was like, man, it'd be so cool if we, sorry, my husband's thinking. I feel like it's starting to but no, so like I said, it didn't sound like that initially, but the final product was really cool. I had already thought, okay, well, Trish Stratus had Lil' Kim on hers. Victoria had Nicki Minaj on hers. I was like, I would love to have Saweetie on mine. Like, that would just be the coolest thing. And who knows? Maybe Saweetie will end up doing my music at some point in life, but that's who I really wanted to be on the remix of that song. That'd be so sick.
Is that something that you can take forward, that music, when it comes to if you were going to
No.
Okay, so
No.
that music is quote unquote retired for now. That's good to know. Okay, so
yeah, so it would have to be a whole new song.
A whole new song, a whole new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us, whoa,
no,
or where to go.
Where to go?
Yeah, or say we're only dreaming. Speaking of the 1992 classic Aladdin. Let's dive, I guess, into a magic carpet ride of asking what your favorite Disney film is, even though I already know the answer to this, but
it is The Lion King. Scar is by far like my favorite everything. Well, Lion King and Aladdin are like neck and neck, but Lion King is just a little bit higher, you know?
A little bit more refined.
Yeah, and I just think that it's the songs for me, because like I loved, obviously, like, who doesn't love A Friend Like Me, or one what is it? Oh my god, Prince Ali. You know, like, those are really like awesome songs, and most people don't even realize that Jafar technically had a song. It was like a sing talk, but it was a song. Which I actually used to sing that song. There's someone named Ali on SmackDown in WWE, and I would always sing that song to him, and he'd get so mad. He has me in his phone as Mini Jafar. So, yeah. But Be Prepared is like the best. Like, Jeremy Irons is just so iconic, and we talked about this, but like, Lion King is just everything. I love The Lion King, 100%. I actually wanted to do a cosplay of Scar. Now I have black hair, so
yeah, it's definitely Renaissance Disney as such.
Yeah.
And I guess growing up around that time, we were spoiled as children. Being born, me and Thea are born like 15 days apart as well. So
that's so funny. Wait, are you this way or this way?
Mine's January 5th. My birthday. Okay. So I'm just breaching 1991 in that regard. So I get to talk about the fact that Beauty and the Beast came out the year I was born. This is one of my things that I'd always talk about in pub quizzes. People, I'd know like Disney dates for stuff. So you had like The Little Mermaid was 1989, 91 was Beauty and the Beast, 92 was Aladdin, 94 was The Lion King. And
that's so funny. Yeah,
it was just interesting, I guess, from that perspective, to see the development of the way the characters went, because for example, in Hercules you had Pegasus, and then
Megara, I loved her.
and then the year after that Mulan came out, and had pretty much a similar horse. He was a black horse instead of a white horse.
Mishu was the little thing, the little dragon. Okay, but the horse was named... I can't
remember the horse's name for Mulan. We might have to look it up.
Yeah,
it's gonna
you're
bother us.
right. I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, just in terms of like it just felt like they'd used the same horse, but like the same assets for a horse, but changed the color. So
you're right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So what is it about what is it about The Lion King that really helped shape your childhood, I guess, in terms of in terms of that being your favorite Disney film, and do you think you incorporate any of Jeremy Irons' Scar in terms of being the bad girl when it comes to your job?
Yes, he's evil, and I loved it. And it's like, he's like, oh my god, that's so messed up, but he killed Mufasa, blah blah. I was like, Okay, but then he wouldn't have gotten as much heat as he did if he didn't, you know? Like, that's like the ultimate betrayal, you know? Like, you don't care about nothing. If you can kill your brother, like, you don't care about anything. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why, for me, Scar was very, I like how he moved. It was very methodical. It was very, like, and I love green eyes. Wish I had green eyes. Don't. But black hair and green eyes is like a thing I've always like the aesthetic I've always loved. And he was just, and then his voice, like the voice is just so I watched what is it, the guy in the Iron Mask yesterday, that movie, you know what I'm talking about? Leonardo DiCaprio, Jeremy Irons was in it too. It was like the Three Musketeers movie. It's like the guy in the Iron Mask.
The man in the Iron Mask, is that?
Yes, I think that's it. The guy, the man, yeah. It's like the guy.
I'm gonna look it up just to make sure. That's not a film I've seen. Yeah, no, that is the Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's
film,
really good.
Yeah, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, so I watched that yesterday, and I didn't even think about Jeremy Irons being in it. I just remember hearing the voice. I was like, Scar. It's Scar. I was like, oh my God. And I started like, you almost like fangirl a little bit when you hear that voice. You just, same thing like with Mufasa's voice. When you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah. You know, ooh, say it again. You know, like it's one of those things. You're just so like pumped when you hear it. You're just like, yes. And then I think the story too of like Simba, I felt so bad for him. Oh my God. Because obviously someone who ended up losing their father afterwards, after seeing that film, when you go back and you watch it again, you're just like, oh my God, whether it's just like a little cartoon or just like the person like behind the voice. That's why I feel like voice acting is so incredible, because you have to convey so much emotion through just your voice. But I felt it. Like I felt every piece of that pain. And it's just like, wow, you know, this little lion is like, you know, and then I'm sorry, but I still cry. Whenever I see that part, I have to either fast forward it or get ready, because you're going to cry like 100%. And I think also the, I don't know, you could find little people, like little pieces of people in your life with those characteristics, I feel. Like I had a Zazu in my life, you know, who always had to like, everything had to be exactly right. And you have to like follow the rules and whatever. And you're like, no, like, nuh-uh, you know? So, but I felt like I was Scar in some weird way, because you feel like, and same with me, I always felt like I was taken for granted. I always felt like I was second best. I never felt like I was good enough to be whatever it was, homecoming queen, or good enough to be which I didn't care about, but you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. It was like you weren't good enough to be with that guy, or with you know, whatever it was. And you look for ways to kind of get that way, and whether that's intentional or not, I feel like that was a lot of Zelina's mindset. It was like, okay, we want this, how do we get there in the most evil way possible, to show like we're not people to be messed with, you know? So I think adding Disney villain characteristics to you is something that is really easy, because people understand why they're that way. And even if you don't agree with it, you're like, I still get it. So but Scar was someone that I was just like, wow, this is like, and just like his voice and how he moved and how he talked, it was so like, and I know I sound like I have a crush on a lion, but that's so not it. It's just freaking legendary.
Zazu.
Yeah. I loved it. It was so good. So good. And actually, I watched yesterday, I watched Jeremy Irons do like in the booth, like doing it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's awesome. I love it.
This is one of the reasons I wanted to bring up Disney was talking about voice acting and stuff. And it's obviously it's always a pleasure to find somebody that's interested in that beyond the character itself, is the person portraying such a character. And that's why voice acting is called voice acting and not just impressions and stuff. It's you're encapsulating the character, you become that character. And I think
100%.
that's what people do so well. In terms of voice actors in general. If you like watching Jeremy Irons in the booth, you absolutely need to watch Frank Welker in the booth when he's portraying Curious George, the monkey. It's an experience. Frank Welker's one of the richest people in Hollywood, and people don't know his name, but he is the voice of probably most things in your childhood, Thea. When it comes to that kind of stuff, he's been Fred in Scooby-Doo. He's played Megatron. He's done all these different voices, and yet people still don't know who he is. But he is a very rich man for all his acting credits. But yeah, that would be a tangent if we go down that road. But
I will say though, before we leave that tangent, Mark Hamill as the Joker, by far my favorite Joker, just solely based off the voice acting, because I feel like Jack Nicholson was a really good like he really showed the funny side of Joker. And oh my god, Heath Ledger did a really great job as like the psychotic side of Joker. But I feel like the good blend of the two was Mark Hamill, because he even talked about, like, when you're watching him in the booth, you see him talking about how the Joker's laugh is like an instrument. So it's like playing an instrument, and it's cool that somebody could take it just such an artistic way versus just, oh, it's a laugh and I gotta read this line, you know. So I have a lot of respect for voice acting because of stuff like that, because it's like you never know what people actually have to really like get into, you know, like when you see them, they're standing but they're moving and they're really feeling it. So I just love that that's such a big part of it. But Mark Hamill is probably like one of my favorite people ever. So
I'm gonna have to move away from the mic, but I can give you my best Mark Hamill's Joker.
Okay.
The problem is, Bats, crime has no punchline.
I love that.
There we go.
I love that. See, how do you do that though? Like, how do you, like, because I, of course, like, we all have things that we can either, whether it's impressions or whatever, but I feel like there has to be some kind of way that you can like identify like the highs and lows of someone's voice, or, you know, because I know how I did it for certain things, like for AJ Lee, I had to figure out her like voice and tones and how she spoke. But how do you do it?
It's always weird when the interview sort of turns around back on me and stuff, because I'm never prepared for any of these questions. But when it came to my life, I went and studied music. I've been studying music since I was 11 years old.
Oh, nice.
So I went to study contemporary music in bass guitar. I learned a lot about pitch, tone, and I had a lot of friends. Well, I say a lot of friends. I had a friend that was really interested in voice acting who taught me a lot about the way people use their voice. And I think that's what really got me interested in sort of the mimicry, I guess, aspect of trying to listen to what people do. One method that I listen to things as though they're a song. I hear people's tones where they are and listen and try and imagine what that is musically to be able to bob along. So if you hear somebody talk and they're like, "Hi, how's it going?" It's ba 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 ba. That's what I'm hearing. So to begin with, and then it's the position of the mouth or the throat, depending on like where your tongue is. You know, obviously when people go towards doing the munchkin and stuff, you've got to have your tongue at the back of your throat, like moving it back. We represent the lollipop, you know, all that stuff. So I guess it's quite difficult, but you just practice and you start to realize that you can do quite a lot with your voice. So I just tend to screw around and practice and you start to really see what you could do, really. So I guess when it comes to that, it's a lot of practice. And then another thing that's quite good, Master Wayne, I guess another thing that's quite good is putting on a show, or even just listening to adverts and or the radio, and just mimic what they're saying. So whilst the advert is playing, you talk. So I might hear somebody say, "Coming up next on BBC Radio 4," and as they're saying it, I would be mimicking it back, which can get very annoying for partners and stuff. But mine seems to put up. She seems to put up with it. Me doing the voices and stuff. But yeah, I guess it's a lot of learning what you can achieve with with what you've got.
For sure.
So
my husband's not big into my Australian voice, so I'm not allowed to do it around him.
Oh, why not?
He says it's cringy.
I don't think it's that cringy, if I'm honest.
That's
probably not as cringy as mine, that's for sure. Although I tend to slip more into New Zealand. Have you ever watched Flight of the Conchords?
No.
Oh, that's a fantastic show. I think you'd like it a lot. Yes, it's fantastic comedy. So of two musicians that are trying to make it, and are struggling, I guess, and their experience of finding a manager and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fun one for sure.
Thank you.
It's again fun to just see what you can achieve, I guess, when it comes to voice acting and other stuff like that. It's something I'd really love to go into.
Oh, for sure.
Another person that I know you have a lot of respect for is Tara Strong.
Yes.
And in more recent history, somebody was very kind and got you a cameo of her talking to you.
Yeah, which I wasn't expecting, because like usually with my streams, I'm the one who's always giving things away. And like we had given away I think what was it? It was like a PlayStation 5, and then we gave away a Nintendo Switch, right? And then someone was like, okay, like one of my mods was like, okay, but now someone wants to give something to you. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't expecting that. And I was like, okay, well, am I gonna, like, how's it gonna come to me? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Next thing I know, like, I'm just like doing my stream thing, and all of a sudden because he's an editor to my Twitch stream, so he could put anything on the screen. So he just played it, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is that? What's going on? Like, what? And it was cool because like no one's ever really, number one, thought to give me a cameo before, because I don't know, but also that somebody would think to want to do that for me. I thought that was really cool. So
sure.
But yeah. Plus I was talking about her like for at least 30 minutes the stream, like 2 streams before that. So
she is such a massive talent. I could honestly talk all day about voice actors, but we'll refrain for now, because I realized the time and how many more questions I have here, where I'm like, oh my goodness, it's just so enjoyable to talk to you.
Ditto.
So
who's also a Pokemon, which I love, but proceed.
I was actually just about to bring up Pokemon, just since you mentioned that. Recently Ronda Rousey said happy birthday to Mewtwo.
Oh yeah.
And that happened, which I always find weird that people say about birthday, considering Mewtwo's a clone. But happy clone day, I guess. What was it like meeting Ronda, and how did you guys become friends?
How did we meet? I know we met briefly at NXT one time, because they were bringing in like the 4 horsewomen into WWE at the same time that people were kind of thinking that the 4 horsewomen of WWE, they were going to like go side to side or face to face, whatever. And they had brought Ronda backstage for NXT show, and I remember seeing her. But who was it that knew her first? I forgot, like somebody that I knew her first and went over to go say hi. I was like, well, I should probably say hi too. So it was like a quick, like, oh, hi, I'm Thea. Oh, I'm Rhonda. Nice to meet you. And it was one of those moments where you see people on TV, but then you don't know what they look different in person almost. Like, they're just different, it's just like, oh wow, this person who I've seen on TV for so long is here in front of me. It's like a weird, you're like, oh wow, right? But then we got closer when she went to Raw, and I had gone because I was on SmackDown at the time, and they were doing like a Latin American tour, and they brought me and Andrade with them because obviously we were the Spanish people of the locker room. So they brought us there, and I was like in her locker room, like with the other like Raw girls, because we were very separate most of the time, SmackDown and Raw.
Yeah.
So, but the more we traveled together, the more like we found things in common with each other, and we're like, oh, you like this? Oh wait, you like this? Like, oh, Pokemon? What? You play that? You know what I mean? So it was like kind of one of those like Step Brothers moments. Did we just become best friends kind of thing, And it just, she was like such a cool, like warm person, like a very welcoming person that maybe you wouldn't have thought that because of her persona. Like on screen, you think like, oh, she's like the baddest, like whatever. Like she's like, she's like, I don't know how people would perceive her. Like you think about her like, oh,
I guess intimidating is like a word that people will often say, that she's intimidating because of what she can do in the ring.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. But she can be if she wants to be, but ultimately like she's just a really kind human. Like she's just really sweet. And she was doing the voice acting for Sonya for Mortal Kombat, and I was there. They invited me to the reveal of it, so I didn't even know that she was there, but she came out dressed as Sonya, and I went there dressed as Jade. And it was like me as Jade, Xavier Woods as Shao Kahn, and then Kofi was Shang Tsung. So it's like we all came together and we're like, oh, this needs a picture. Like, so we were taking pictures together and whatever. And then we saw Ed Boon, and right away I was like trying to keep it together. Like I was like, that's guys. So it was very, I don't know. It was like one of those things where you kind of have to like think about what you're going to say before you say it, or that you hope that you have like a good question. Cause I didn't know, but the guys were like, oh yeah, we're interviewing him. I was like, oh yeah, well that's probably something that you probably should freaking told me before you just surprised me with this legend, So he comes into the room. I'm sitting next to him. They're sitting on the side, and they're asking him all these really good questions, right? And then I was like, I gotta think of something. I don't know what it could be. Who's his favorite? Yeah. As if we don't know who his favorite would be. But in the moment, it just sounded good. And he's like, well, yeah, like Scorpion. I was like, duh. What the fuck? Like right away, I was like, really, Thea? Really? Who's your favorite? As if it was ice cream. Like simple answers. Like, what do you so he's answering. I'm not hearing what he's saying. I'm arguing with myself in my head. And he asked me something back, and I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, what's the answer though? Like, who's yours? I was like, Sindel and Jade, and I'm dressed as Jade. I was like, Kofi, cut this out of the freaking video, okay? Because this isn't going well at all. And I think that's really what kind of broke the ice. And I was like, okay, you can like relax now, whatever. But we had taken a picture. It was like me and Rhonda, and then Ed and Kofi. And I remember like from that moment, she always became like the Sonya to my Jade. That was like our thing. And then she introduced me to World of Warcraft, and just like, oh my God, when was it? It was like for Christmas. I got this big package from her, and it was like, I think it was Ori. It was Hollow Knight, World of Warcraft stuff. It's like a whole bunch of like video games. I was like, why like, thank you, that's the first thing, but like, why? That's so much. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I just think you'd really like all these. So I was like, okay, you know what, fine. So then I made her a mystery box with a bunch of really funny stuff. Like I have this thing with mystery boxes. I like making mystery boxes. And I got her like some of the things that I thought she would like. I know she hadn't seen Mewtwo Strikes Back yet. So like the newer one that came, yeah, that one. So she hadn't seen that yet. So I got her that DVD, and then I got her the one with Lugia in it. It was like Pokemon 2000 or something. Was it Pokemon 2000? I think it was.
I think that was there was like, was that the second film? I can't remember entirely.
So. Yeah, I think it was that one with like Zapdos, Articuno, Moltres, and Lugia. So I got her that. I got her like Let's Go Pikachu. I got her like a bunch of like little things that I thought she would like. I got her like this World of Warcraft journal thing and for Alliance, and it was like this whole thing. But then I sent her really random things that she was like, I remember her text said, "That was the most amazing, weird, effed up, amazing box I've ever gotten in my life, and a collection of weird things that I've ever gotten in my life." So I got her like fake poop too. I put that and like I sprinkled that in there with like fake roaches and whatever. So by the time she opened the whole thing, she put the roaches on her kids' like beds. She put the fake she put like the fake poop in the bottom of their stocking, so they had to grab it. And then she just had like a bunch of like, you know, games to play and stuff like that. So she's someone that I never knew we were going to become so close, and then all of a sudden it was just like bang, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's really cool.
I definitely am going to need a Thea Trinidad mystery box at some point in my life, by the sounds of it.
Oh my God, I'm telling you, if you do, it's funny. I would love to make one for you. I'm making one for DK, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know what's in it completely because he knows like the nice things that are in there. Like I made this little like I got a little Among Us plushie, and I got like a witch hat, and I put the witch hat on it so it looks just like him.
That's great.
But so like that's like the nice part of it. The rest of it is all really weird stuff. Like really weird stuff that you're not gonna expect. Like with Rhonda's, I took a Barbie doll and I cut all its hair off, and I like kind of put her in like these like weird positions, and I taped it up. I don't know why. And then like in random things, I kept putting the hair everywhere. She's like, "Oh, there's more doll hair, random everywhere." And then like this really scary doll that when you push it, it says, "The last person who held me died a horrible death."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so she was stoked.
You like to leave, you're an impressionist. You like to leave people with an impression. A lasting impression.
I'm very curious as to then what you would think of the mystery box.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I think I'd be able to find the meaning behind whatever it is. I feel as a fellow Capricorn, I'm very good at putting things together logically. So there are a few things I wanted to bring up on what you talked about. One is I can absolutely relate to asking stupid questions to people. There's a bassist, his name's Stuart Ham. I had the pleasure of meeting at one point, got him to sign my bass guitar. It was a big deal, you know, and all this stuff. But I remember asking him in all my infinite wisdom how much he paid for his guitar, considering that he has a custom line that they all just get made for him anyway. And obviously people are like, are you joking? Like, why are you asking him that? So yeah, I can absolutely relate to thinking like, oh, this will be a good question to ask, and then being like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then recently you brought up Ori as well. Just the other day for Valentine's Day, I did a playthrough of the second game, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh, nice.
And raised money for the Trevor project, in terms of to help with suicide prevention for the LGBTQ, to highlight that love is a universal thing, and
that's so beautiful.
That people should know that. And Ori, those Ori games are so good at highlighting that regardless of what species you are and stuff, you can still love one another. So that was really good. We ended up raising $700 in like a 12-hour stream. So that was really, really amazing.
I love that.
And that concludes this week's episode of the podcast. Next week will be the conclusion. The second half of the podcast I did with Thea. Like I said, Thea is an amazing individual. It was such a pleasure to talk to her. And next week, she will go into more detail, not only of her wrestling career, but more about her streaming career and her acting career as well. So make sure you stick around, hit the subscribe button, and or follow us on social media to make sure that you get to see next week's episode as well. Once again, I will just throw out there that we do have the Patreon link as well. So if you do want to go check it out, it would mean the world. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching.